Okay, so a central theme of this channel has been that urban planners and city planners, well, they create economies. For the good or for the worse, they create economies. But, to be fair, nobody ever got mad when a city planner or an urban planner increased the value of a piece of property they own. But what happens if they decrease the value? Well, Katy Bar the Door. Okay, so today we're actually on the road. I appreciate you joining me. We're going to go down to Galveston Island, and we're going to go take a look at a town that did some things that actually decreased the value, or at least allegedly decreased the value of some property owners' property. Okay? Now, if you look down in the links below in the description, you're going to see some links to some videos I did earlier about how urban planners create deadweight loss and how they create economies, and so that's a really good videos to go watch. Now, this particular town that we're going to go look at has created some controversies, and they actually got sued. And so you'll also see a link to the appellate court decision in the description. And this town also has a reputation of not getting along with developers either, so they got sued there as well. So I also did another video on that. You'll see the description there. But when I talk about deadweight loss and how that affects value, okay, what does that really mean? So many people are surprised when I say, hey, look, real estate actually has no value. I get shocked over that one, and believe me, I'm going to get some comments on that. It's not real estate that has value, it's real property. And so real property represent the rights that you have with your property. And from a finance point of view, that's what we actually value. We can actually determine its price or its investment value or something of that nature. Appraisers can do that as well. So if you talk to any realtor, they're going to tell you about something called the bundle of rights. They've all learned about it all the way when they were getting their schooling done and getting their license, okay? And that bundle of rights represent things that you can actually do with your property. A great example of this is, obviously, one of your rights is you get to live on it. Another right is to be able to build on it. Another right would be to be able to lease or sell your mineral rights, or you to be able to rent the property out, okay? So I'll give you a great example of what I'm talking about. If you have a property, you have two properties, and they're identical in every way, except one of the properties, the owner has sold off their mineral rights. Well, that particular property is not as valuable to a new buyer as a person who retained them. Okay, so this brings us to our controversy, okay? So we're on the road right now down to Galveston. We're gonna go cross over to over the causeway, and there's a little town over on the side, a little vacation community called the Village of Tiki Island. And this particular community is a vacation community that people come to, beautiful homes on it. And which brings me to my point here. Real quick, I want to make a side note. We're not here to cast aspersions on the town or the people living in it. We're not really here to exploit their problem. What we are here to do is learn from it. We're also not giving legal advice. There you need to talk to a lawyer. But all of us can learn from, I hate to say they're mistakes, but we can learn about what happened here to help better our communities. And if you're a property owner, recognize what you need to do to help solve, save the values of your property. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to pull over to we're going to pull into this community. I'm going to share some dash cam video of the community. I think this is important because when we look at controversies, oftentimes driving down into the area will help add some context to what the controversy actually is. All right. isn't this community just a beautiful community? This community, the people there have a lot to be proud of. Absolutely beautiful. They keep it up. It is a vacation community. But many of the people that are here rent these properties out when they're not there to help them support and supplement the income to be able to help them keep this vacation home, right? And so May 20th of 2014, the island of Tiki Village passed an ordinance concerning short-term rentals. And what they did is they prohibited them, except they grandfathered some of the homes. Well, this created a red flag, and the people who didn't benefit from that got really angry, and they sued the city. Now, in the process of suing the city, the city, of course, in their answer, pled to the jurisdiction or their sovereign right to be able to make this ordinance. All right? They pled in their pleadings over the issues of sovereignty, the common cases. And those common cases are, forgive me if I actually butcher the name of these cases, okay? So one of the cases that they claim for sovereign immunity is Cerna Sec Enterprises Incorporated versus the city of Mont Belvieu. And the second one is Steele versus the city of Houston. And if you're a planner, I'm sure that you've learned about these cases. If not, then we're going to talk about that. I'm actually going to do some videos later on these two cases, all right? Now, the people who lived in this community are claiming that the city, by creating this ordinance, created a taking. And of course, you know, a taking is protected. These are police powers that the state has, and by extension, cities have. But these actions are protected under the U.S. Constitution and in the state of Texas under the Texas Constitution. Of course, this happened in Texas. Now, in order to be able to have a complete taking, you have to provide just compensation, and that's one of the arguments that the people or the plaintiffs are arguing in this case, is that they didn't get just compensation for this taking. And of course, they plead in their arguments the typical cases that you find in taking cases in the state of Texas. And so the regulatory cases that they cite are Sheffield Development Company Incorporated versus the city of Glen Heights. I'm actually going to do a video on this one, so stay tuned on that one. And of course, Mayhew versus the town of Sunnyvale. I'm also going to do one on that one. And the final one they use in there is the city of College Station versus Turtle Rock Corporation. And I may or may not get down there to go do that one. I don't know yet. But the other two, I'm going to get down there too. Now, in their pleadings, they asked the court to provide them with a temporary restraining order to prevent the Village of Tiki Island from enforcing its new ordinance until they could get it sorted out. And the court did. It provided them with a temporary restraining order. Not all of them, but a couple of the families. Now, I'm not going to go into the names of the families. You can read that in the case down below. I don't think it's important to it. It's the context of what's really going on here. Now, the Village of Tiki Island immediately filed for appeal, claiming sovereign immunity, and that essentially that the case was not ripe to go before the court. The court agreed in part and disagreed in other parts. And so there is no more in the record. I haven't been able to find any other cases. So if you're actually from this community, or maybe you're a lawyer that worked on it or familiar with this case, I'd really appreciate it if you left some comments in the comment section down below. Now, let's try to keep things positive. Anytime we get into these controversies, they do create emotional, people have high emotions when they start talking about this, but we really want to learn from this. So let me share a little bit more of the video, the dash cam video with us, and I'm going to talk about some of the key takeaways that you should have with this. Again, this area is just a beautiful area, isn't it? So here's some of the key takeaways that you should have in any of your communities, all right? If you're an urban planner or a city planner, you should always take care to make sure that you're protecting the values of the people that are in your, or of the property values in the area, if you can, okay? You can't do it in all cases, but be prepared for the blowback. Always be prepared if a controversy comes up to bring a mediator in. That's one of the key takeaways. I think one of the things that could have solved a lot of this is if the city had, instead of getting themselves into their corner, had they had brought a mediator in early, they could have headed a lot of this off at the pass. Now, if you're a homeowner or a property owner in an area where they're considering changing an ordinance or rezoning an area that might have a negative impact on your property, you should be involved in every step of the way. Don't just sit back and wait till it to happen and then complain about it, because the court's going to look at you and say, well, this must not be that important to you. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to leave a end card